Hello everyone and welcome to another incredible game. This one coming from the Shenzhen Longgang Chess Masters tournament from round 2. I was unaware that this tournament was even taking place, so thank you for recommending it in the previous video. And in the previous video I mentioned that there are some people I like to call the masters of the mystic arts, and I mentioned that Daniil Dubov is one of them, so I'm very happy that this game was suggested to me. Let's check it out. Daniil Dubov versus Anish Giri. Anish being a top 10 player pretty much his entire life, and Daniil, I'm pretty sure if he took chess more seriously that he could very well get into the top 10. But even not being in the top 10, he did of course help Magnus Carlsen in his preparation for the World Chess Championship matches. And when it comes to preparation, it's hard to say who is the greater student of the game between these two. And this game also shows that, as the first 20 moves of this game are known theory, so we're not gonna dwell too long on those. So here, Daniil with the white pieces opens with d4. Knight to f6, c4, g6. Again, we have the king's Indian defense. Knight to c3 and d5, transposing into the Gruenfeld. C captures, knight captures, and pawn to e4. So a nice exchange variation of the Gruenfeld. Captures, captures, bishop to g7, and now knight to f3. Pawn to c5. If you've ever studied the Gruenfeld, this is basically the starting position where you start learning theory. And the top move here is rook to b1. Pretty much everyone plays it. Of course, it makes sense to move the rook off of this diagonal. Bishop to e3, second most popular. Daniil goes for bishop to b5 check, which is the third most popular move in this position. Knight to c6. Defending, we have castles, castles, and now bishop captures on c6. B captures, and now queen to c2. Inviting the capture on d4, we have captures, captures, and bishop to g4. Trying to punish Daniil for not moving his rook to b1, but again, this is all very well known. Knight to e5 attacks the bishop, queen captures on d4, attacks the rook, and now bishop to b2 attacks the queen, queen to b6, and now rook a to b1. Of course, you cannot capture the bishop because the bishop on b2 would also be captured. I mean, you can, it just doesn't do anything. Rook a to b1, and now bishop captures on e5. We have bishop captures, opening up a discovery on the queen, queen to a5, and now bishop back to c3, attacking the queen. Queen to c5, pinning the bishop as the queen on c2 is undefended, and now pawn to h3. Again, still a known position. Queen to b2 is the top played move here, as the queen is very nicely placed here. You gain more control over this diagonal, and also you prevent the black rooks from being developed to the open b file, because if you play rook a to b8, then queen just takes and you get checkmated as the bishop covers the long diagonal. For example, bishop c8, rook captures on c8 will be checkmate. So after queen to c5, pawn to h3. Again, a known move. We have bishop back to e6, and now known moves here are rook to b7 and also rook f to d1. But here we have king to h2, and it is now, as of move 19, that we have a completely new game. Now, I was very much interested in this move because I'm sure both of them know every move that was played up until this moment, and I allowed the engine to really crunch the numbers, and I allowed the engine to give me as many lines as possible. And king to h2 is not even in the top 5 moves recommended by the engine, so it could be maybe the top 7th or the top 9th. I don't know. But yeah, pretty much all of the moves that the white can make here while the king is on g1 are estimated to be completely equal. So let's see how the game continued. Now, you could capture on a2, but you know, taking a pawn from Dubov doesn't look like something you want to do. You've already taken one. You maybe don't want to take the second one. So here we have rook a to b8. Anish just continues development, and rook b to c1. We have queen to c4, now again going after the pawn, and pawn to f4. Dubov just continues like nothing is happening, says, yeah, I mean, have the second pawn as well. And other than capturing an a2, there's just no move that looks appealing for you to play. It just makes sense. You capture the pawn and you start advancing your past a pawn. So that's exactly what Anish does. But now Dubov brings the queen back, queen to d1. And why is Daniil giving up all of these pawns? Why did he give Anish the passed C pawn and the passed A pawn? Well, if you look at the position closely, you will see that Daniil has the dark square bishop, whereas Anish has the light square bishop. So if an attack were to happen on the king side with something like, let's say, rook coming to G3, maybe queen coming to H5, to H6, F5 being played, the bishop controlling this diagonal, the light square bishop would not be able to help out with the defense of the black king, as the attack will be happening on the dark squares. So although Daniil is down 2 pawns, he's actually up a piece if an attack happens. If they trade queens and go into the endgame, then of course Anish is just up material. But if an attack will happen, then Anish is down a piece. So bishop to c4, attacking the rook. We have rook to f3, and now pawn to f6. Also, I mean, if you try something like queen to a6 to skewer the queen and the rook, then rook to g3, again, very strong. It's probably best to bring the rook into the game, something like rook to d8, attack the queen, and then rook to d3, simply to counter this rook from coming to g3. But Anish played pawn to f6, already a small victory in itself for Daniil, forcing Anish to weaken his king side. Queen to e1, and now queen to e2, offering a queen trade, but just queen to h4. Daniil goes for the attack. He even offers more material. Now, while you can capture on e4, and you probably should, rook to e1 attacks the queen, and after queen to f5, you will take on e7, attack the h7 pawn, threaten checkmate, h5, and that's pretty much it. I mean, of course, you could continue playing, but there are all sorts of nasty drawing mechanisms like queen g5. You can even sacrifice the queen here for a nice perpetual with a nice discovery from the bishop, and yeah, it would pretty much resolve in a perpetual check. So here, bishop to d3 by Anish, not going for queen captures on e4. He took 2 pawns, but maybe taking the third one, from Daniil would be too much. But now Daniil says, all right, I've played you, I've tricked you, pawn to e5. You should have taken the third pawn while you could. Anish plays bishop to e4, attacks the rook. Now, if the rook moves anywhere other than, let's say, these 2 squares, you're going to get checkmated. But, of course, he was planning on going rook to g3 either way, so having this setup doesn't really help. And rook to f2 would only help Anish defend, so, of course, rook to g3. And how do you... Oh, now queen h5 is impossible. You just take the queen. The g-pawn is pinned. So rook to b1, trying to trade material, but just rook captures. Daniil even welcomes this and plays e captures on f6. We have e captures on f6, and now bishop captures on f6. Okay, Anish is still up a pawn, but now with one pair of rooks off the board, now you can see that having bishops of opposite colors really does help Daniil attack, as this light square bishop is useless. Now, queen to e6, of course, trying to help out with the defense. Bishop to e5, consolidating and preparing to further the attack. We have bishop to e4. We have rook to a3. And this is a beautiful move by Daniil. Here, the position on the king side is blocked. You have full control over the f5 square, so you don't have to worry about f5. There are no sacrifices that can be made here. The black queen making sure of that. Also, the bishop helping out. But rook to a3 is a phenomenal move by Daniil. We have queen to d7, defending the a7 pawn, and queen to f2, now shifting the attention towards the queen side. And you have to play rook to f7. Interestingly, when I first saw this position, I thought, okay, rook f7, and how does white push here? Of course, you are doing a little bit better as you're the one attacking, but still with rook to f7 is going to be very, very long game. However, Anish played queen to e7, and it seems like a beautiful tactical idea because, well, to give you an example, or maybe I'm not going to give you an example. No, feel free to pause the video and try to find the only move that wins the game for Daniil while I give you a couple of seconds. So for those of you who were able to do it, congratulations on spotting this brilliancy. And for those of you who just want to enjoy the show, it is queen to e3. Yes, why is this weird move the only winning move? Well, to understand that, we first have to see what happens if you just take the pawn. The problem is, if you take with the queen, then the queens get traded off and nothing special. Captures, captures, captures. Okay, you are threatening rook g7 check, but the black rook just moves. And after you deliver this check and you move and you win the h7 pawn, then comes rook d2. You're going to win the g2 pawn, and it unwinds into a draw. and after queen to e7, if you play rook captures on a7, then the idea is queen captures on e5. That's the whole point of queen e7, as the f2 queen is undefended. And if you take, of course, just rook captures on f2, and if you deliver a check, also doesn't matter because queen d5 blocks check. And if queen to a1, threatening checkmate, now again rook f7, and probably will be a draw by repetition. Rook a8 check, rook f8, rook a7, rook to f7, and so on. So while having that in mind, now queen to e3, and without the possibility of queen captures on e5 and the queen on f2 being undefended, now capturing on a7 is just a huge threat. So how does Anish stop this? Well, the answer is he can't. Rook to f7 does seem like a good idea because it was possible in the line that we've discussed. But now look at this. Bishop to b2. Also, bishop to a1 is possible, but bishop to b2 also guards the rook here, so it makes more sense. And now you see again the problem of the bishops of opposite color. Queen d4 followed by queen h8 will be checkmate. And you can't really choose your defense, any way you want, as the queen also has to defend the bishop on e4. So queen to b4, putting pressure on the bishop here, also defending the bishop on e4. Now rook to b3, preparing rook to b8 check, and that's all there is. Queen to c4 was played, rook to b8 check, rook to f8 blocking, and now look at this. Queen captures on a7, threatening queen to g7 checkmate. So queen to f7 was played, and now for the final time, there's only one way to win this position. Feel free to pause the video and join the Master of the Mystic Arts Club while I give you a couple of seconds. So for those of you who were able to do it, congratulations on spotting another brilliancy, and for those of you who just want to enjoy the show, it is queen to d4. Of course, it makes sense, and probably you guys thought about this, going after the h8 square, but of course you also had to calculate what happens if queen captures on f4 with check. Anish did play it, but Daniil just played pawn to g3, and he was in this position on move 40 that Anish Giri resigned the game, as there is nothing more to be done here. Daniil was really much better on time. He basically played this entire game without investing too much time. I'm pretty sure most of it was preparation, as we've discussed before the game, how it's hard to say which of the two is more prepared, but for this game it was definitely Daniil, as he gained more time here. He finished the game with 57 minutes on the clock. By playing pawn to g3 here, he was granted additional time, additional half an hour, so basically he finished the game with an hour and 27 minutes on the clock, which against a player like Anish is unfathomable. And here you resign because there's no defending checkmate, whatever you do, and of course trading queens is impossible because after queen f2 check, you just take the queen and the rook is pinned. The rook cannot move. So yeah, brilliant stuff by Daniil, as usual, taking down a monster player like Anish, 2762 rated player. I mean, absolutely incredible stuff. But yeah, 20 moves of known theory, it's not enough to to hold Daniil. You still have to play the game like a wizard, and you have to play every move. Every move counts, and every move Daniil will make you suffer. So yeah, that's the game. Hope you guys enjoyed it. If you enjoy these Masters of the Mystic Arts games, also check out the previous video, as your head will be dazzled by what happened there. So yeah, hope you enjoyed it. I would like to thank Daniel Heist, Anthony Palumbi, Matthew Witten, Kristen is the best wife, and Chris Kaskadan for your contribution to my channel. Thank you a lot, really appreciate it. As usual, you can check 2 of my previous videos here. Thank you for watching, and I will see you soon, continuing to check up on your wonderful suggestions and whatever else happens in the chess world. So thank you all, I will see you soon, and have an excellent rest of your day, and don't forget to use that hashtag suggestion. Without it, we wouldn't see games like this one here. See you soon.